Salutations readers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nkechi and today I'm giving y'all another book review video for Alone With You in the Ether by Olivie Blake. Now this is gonna be another no script kind of book review video because again, I'm trying not to drag my feet from making these kind of videos, so I'm just gonna head right into it. So if you do not know what this book is about, I'm just gonna read the back flap here. That pretty much just gives a nice snippet as far as what this book is about. Alone With You in the Ether is a contemporary love story like no other, exploring the nature of love, what it means to be unwell, and how to face the fractures of ourselves and still love as if we're not broken. So this is a somewhat contemporary but mostly just a literary romance between Reagan and Aldo, who live in Chicago. They meet each other, they fall in love, things happen, all the things, all the beasts you usually find in a contemporary romance. The only difference between a contemporary romance and this particular literary romance is that there is absolutely no plot. This is completely plotless. This is just, literally the plot is just any other bare bones regarding like a romance. They have the characters, you have them by themselves, they meet, fall in love, get to know each other, fall in love, things happen, third eye breakup. They get back together. That's pretty much like the actual plot of the story. You know, that's pretty much it, really. That's literally it. And I initially read this in May for the Asian Readathon, and I genuinely had a great time with Alone With You in the Ether. So yeah, there's not really much to say about regarding the plot, but as far as just initial thoughts, I really enjoyed the story. I really loved Olivie Blake's writing style in this book than any of her other works, because I did read the Atlas 6, did not really enjoy it, so I didn't continue with that series. I also read One for My Enemy, enjoyed it, liked it enough. Masters of Death, really had a good time with it. It was very fun. But this one, I truly believe, is kind of like Olivie Blake's best so far, for me anyways. I really connected with her writing more so in this book than any other of her works. Really liked just exploring these two characters, Reagan and Aldo, and just seeing their love story. And if you do not know me and you just came across this video, I am not really a romance reader. Romance is not a genre that I gravitate towards. I gravitate towards it very, very little. So far this year though, I've been trying to explore more of romance just to see if there is something within the genre that's for me. And I found that at least somewhat with like a literary romance, it definitely works for me. But I will have to say though that like it is definitely a lot more of a vibey book. Really the writing does carry it, and following the characters also carry it. Like it's so intimately character driven that you're really inside the heads of both Aldo and Reagan, that if you do not like either of these characters and you don't care for their love story, you're not going to enjoy the book. If you want some plotting to your stories, don't even bother with this book. And yeah, I think that's it for initial thoughts. Oh no, wait. Also as well, it does talk about like what it means to be unwell, because both of these characters also have some form of mental illness. Aldo is clinically depressed, and then Reagan also has bipolar disorder. It is not really much of a spoiler regarding any of this, really. You find out pretty quickly, especially for Reagan, regarding her bipolar disorder. And then you also find out pretty quickly as well, I think, with Aldo as well, with his clinical depression. So yes, it does follow two characters who are dealing with their own mental illnesses, but they also find ways to at least love each other. And also love how their brains works, which is something for them that they did not know. It's something that someone else could love, even though for themselves they have a trouble with it. So yeah, I think that's it for his initial thoughts. I'm not gonna go into full-on spoilers, which is kind of hard not to get into spoilers since there isn't much else to talk about it. But I will talk more broadly and vaguely because I do want more people to at least watch this video, so I'm not gonna get anything too specific or anything until maybe the end, where I do want to include some quotes, because I did annotate this book. I don't know if you can see that, but I did annotate this. There's some tabs here. So I can reference some quotes in here that I annotated specifically, so we can do that towards the end. And also I will provide content warnings as well, because I made note of content warnings. I will also provide them in the video description as well if you want to just look through there instead. I can just say again, there's not much regarding world building here, because this takes place in like our contemporary world. It takes place in Chicago, and I've never been to Chicago, but I don't think the book necessarily feels as lived in as if I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely Chicago. It doesn't read like, oh yeah, this is definitely a novel set in Chicago. It's like, okay, I'm kind of aware that we are set in Chicago. The only thing I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely set in Chicago, is like the I think that's the Institute of Art, I think. Yeah, I think that's the Institute of Art, which is where Reagan works at. So I think that's it as far as like, oh yeah, we're definitely like in Chicago, but that's pretty much it, like the Art Institute. Now I do really want to talk about the writing, because the writing really carried the story for me. And I've always had like problems with Olivie Blake and her writing, especially regarding fantasy. I've always been reading like various ways to like go about fantasy and writing fantasy and different writing styles within the fantasy genre from various authors. But Olivie Blake's way of writing fantasy is a lot more convoluted than I'm used to reading within the fantasy genre, so I always tend to struggle with her writing there. Now in this romance novel, it is convoluted, but it's convoluted not because of the genre convention, but because of the fact that we're following two characters, especially Reagan, who is a little bit more convoluted herself. Now I'll talk about more of that regarding characters a little bit later. But the writing here, I think, really fits the story way more perfectly for me, because I can really feel like the convoluted way a person could think, especially for Reagan, with this particular writing style that just matches Olivie Blake. And I think it also makes sense too, because Olivie Blake also has bipolar disorder as well, which is a type of mood disorder. She does talk about that in like the acknowledgements page. So this is like an own voices kind of like experience, kind of like written book. So if you're wondering about that, it is own voices. So something to at least keep in mind of. I do not have bipolar disorder, so I can't speak for as far as accuracy, or like this is more like a representation that speaks to me. I can't speak about that. But I will say that, however Olivie Blake writes this, it definitely spoke to her like when she was writing it, because this is definitely the most personal that she's ever written so far, at least. So just keep that in mind when you do read this book, if you ever do. So the writing is definitely the biggest factor for me, but I can also see how the writing can be the biggest hindrance for other readers, because if you do not vibe with the writing, you're not going to enjoy this story, because it's definitely, the writing does carry a lot regarding the emotional moments, but also carries more about like the emotional complexity and interiority of of our two characters, since it's completely character driven. If you don't want that, like, again, I implore you, don't bother with this book if you don't want a plotless, character driven literary romance. But also another thing too about the writing is that it just in and of itself is just so beautiful, because I'm literally in the heads of Reagan and Aldo, and just think about how they really feel about each other and the way they express and how they really start to come to terms with the fact that they are in love with each other is also really beautiful. So I just really love the writing. I have to commend the writing, which I will definitely talk more about when we get to the quote section. But let's definitely talk about characters, because the characters really is just the bulk of this story. Reagan is, how do I describe her? Okay, it's kind of like in the synopsis, but I don't want to go too deep regarding that. But like, Reagan is court ordered to go into therapy to kind of like manage and deal with her bipolar disorder, and there is representation regarding like therapy visits and stuff like that, and also medication, both in current time for Reagan but also in the past for Aldo as well. And with Aldo, the thing that makes it so interesting, at least to me, about him, is that he thinks in regards to time. And the only way how he thinks about regarding to time is regarding to bees. Because it has to do a lot more regarding time travel. I don't know necessarily quite how to explain it, really. But, like, if I remember correctly, it's regarding, like, how bees always, like, have, like, their, like, you know, like a bee comb, you know? Like, it's more like the shape of a hexagon. And then how, as well, that I think there's a point in time, I think something about, like, the movement of time is something about sixes. I don't remember. I genuinely do not remember. But he does connect time with bees, hence why the cover has some bees. But bees is a big thing to Aldo, honestly. And honestly, it really is just a big metaphor regarding just how he processes things in around the world. There is definitely, I mean, like I said, he is clinically depressed, honestly. Like, the way that he just moves through the world is like he just wants to continue to think, because if he's not thinking, he doesn't really know what he's doing with his life. So he's pretty much I think he's a PhD student who's studying theoretical mathematics. Not applied math, theoretical math. So just math where he's just thinking the entire time. You know, like, what kind of person does all that? Honestly, I've been looking at him like, theoretical mathematics? Child, I cannot be sitting here just thinking about math. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Again, it really is just a big metaphor, honestly, for him, to just how he deals with life. Even his dad is really, really sweet. Aldo's dad also plays along with it. His dad doesn't fully understand regarding the whole math thing and where we are in time thing that Aldo does. But he just goes along with it for Aldo because he just wants to make sure that his son is just doing okay. It's just him and Aldo, so, you know, it's just a way to, like, check in. And it's really, really sweet. I truly appreciate that with, like, his dad. Which is definitely different though, with Reagan, with her parents. Is there's more of a strained relationship between her and her parents. So definitely opposites for sure on that part. But it just really is so interesting to me, though, just seeing how the way that Aldo grows to love how Reagan's brain really works, and also seeing how Reagan really appreciates Aldo's brain and how that works as well. Like, they have their own ways of just working and processing the world, but they just love how the other processes the world, and they just love that about each other, to the point that they think that, oh, you love, like, at least in Reagan's case, at least, it's very interesting for her, because it's like, wow, you love this part of me? Like, my brain, the thing that I feel like I'm always being combative against. But I still really enjoy both of their characters, though Aldo is still my favorite character for sure in here, because just the way his brain works is so fascinating. I truly find it so fascinating how his brain works. And also I really grow to more appreciate Reagan as well, because at first I was kind of a little bit frustrated with her, and also with Aldo to some extent, but mostly with Reagan. And then over time I started to really understand her, and starting to really understand how her brain works. Because for Aldo, it's a lot more simple as far as, like, how his brain works. It's a lot more, even though it's a lot more regarding math, theoretical math, mind you, but, like, the way he goes about it is a lot more simple than Reagan, who is a lot more convoluted. And again, that's just something that I'm not used to, is a lot of convolutedness. But I grew to, like, start to understand her a little bit more. Now, I did give this book originally, like, 4.5 stars, because the way that it ends is where it starts to lose me. So we have, like, this third act breakup scene that we tend to get in a lot of romance novels, and the reason why they have this kind of breakup scene really confused me, and then the actual ending is a lot more open-ended, which I'm like, well, not surprising there, but don't really love it either as well. It does have somewhat of an open ending a little bit, even though it's kind of like a we come back together kind of thing, sort of thing, but, like, I don't know, not totally sure about this ending specifically, but still, I had a good time regardless, and I definitely felt like I was losing some steam regarding her writing style anyways towards the end, so I was like, yeah, can we, like, wrap this up? I can only handle this for so long, so we're gonna end this, so yeah. But anyways, that's pretty much it. I think that's all of my actual thoughts regarding this book. Now let's actually talk about quotes, because I got several. Okay, I got some just quotes that I just wrote down, I just highlighted because it was just beautiful. It isn't constancy that keeps us alive. It's the progression we use to move us. Because everything is always the same until, very suddenly, it isn't. I know, a little bit more random quote there, but, like, still very good. Okay, there you go. Here's another quote. That I could study you for a lifetime, carrying all of your peculiarities and discretions in the webs of my spidery palms, and still feel empty-handed. That one's definitely one of my favorite quotes, honestly. That's just a stunning quote. Like, learning about each other and just, like, wow. It's like I could study you and only still just get at you at the surface. Honestly, that was one of the, that's, like, literally the best quote I've ever read. One of the best quotes I've ever read. Okay, here's a quote that Aldo says to someone about Reagan. Reagan isn't just difficult, she's convoluted. She's contradictory, honest even when she lies. And really the same version twice. She's confounding, really intricate, infinite. She have to be measured infinitely in order to be calculated, which no one could ever do. Just sit with that, okay? Just sit with that quote. I want y'all to sit with that one. Like, being so real, but also so loving at the same time. Truly. I feel like I should do one more quote. Okay, this will be the final quote. So, when people say we're alone in the ether, alone in everything, in time and space, in existence, in religion. I just want to say that quote because it had to actually have something to do with the title of the book, and I had to tab that one because I thought it was just very, 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 very important. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the quotes, because, I mean, there's a lot more quotes I really could have used, y'all, but, like, I don't want this video to go on forever, but I also want to keep in mind, though, of some content warnings. Like I said, I was going to mention content warnings, so here's some content warnings. There's sexual content in here, drug use, addiction, drug abuse. We did talk about drug abuse, toxic relationship, which is definitely current throughout the story, Suicide Attempt, which is minor, but I think it's more of regarding the past, but it's definitely minor. Suicidal Thoughts, which is more current, but it's also a minor thing. Emotional abuse, gaslighting, possibly self-harm. I didn't quite catch self-harm, but I did see this though in someone's review of the book, and someone did tag in like self-harm. I'm just not totally sure on like the degree. It didn't seem graphic to me, but I guess there is instances of self-harm that I most likely missed. And then abandonment as well, which I think I probably missed as well, but it was a prominent comment warning though, so I'm just adding that in here. But anyways, yeah, that is it. That's literally everything that I have really much to say about Alone With You the Ether. So yeah, I hope y'all really liked this book review video. Again, I do hope to make some more, to have this be a little bit more of a regular occurrence. We shall see. We shall see, but I'm gonna try. But anyways, if y'all like this video, like it, subscribe if you want to, if you haven't already. Comment down below. Have any of y'all read Alone With You the Ether? Are y'all, any of y'all planning to read it? Are y'all now interested in reading? Or maybe you're like, okay, this is definitely not a book for me. I don't care, just let me know that you're like, you know what, this just doesn't sound like the book for me, and that's fine. That's definitely okay. Now, if you made it this far into the video and you're not really sure what to say, but you just want to let me know that you're here, leave me a B emoji, a artist palette emoji, or an hourglass emoji. Either of those emojis will work for this book. Anyways, thank you again for coming on to this video, and I hope to see you on my next one. Bye.